Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Raj Girn, who's the founder of the Open Chest Confidence Academy. Raj, welcome to the program.
Mike, thank you so much for having me.
Hey, I'm really looking forward to talking with you because I see that you talk about and teach many of the same things that I do, so it'll be fun to swap ideas and talk strategies. So give us a little bit of your background and what has your entrepreneurial journey looked like?
Well, actually, I call myself an accidental entrepreneur because there was no, plan or training or strategy around me going into the entrepreneurial space. It really came more from a place that I came out of a arranged marriage with a divorce. I was a single mom of a 5-year-old son, and I'd always kind of belonged to someone's daughter, sister, wife, or mother, and I'd never been given the opportunity or even kind of the training to understand who I was as an individual. So serendipitously, I kind of, stumbled across an individual who ran a local, radio and TV station, and they just kind of loved my story and wanted me to kind of come on board and train, in reporting. And long story short, that took me on this kind of whole, idea of telling stories. And what I found was that as I worked as a reporter at these various stations in the, Greater Toronto area here in Canada, they kept putting me in the the storytelling for the Southeast Asian community, which is the community that I come from. And every time I brought the story back, Mike, they would always want to change the narrative of it to make it more palatable for a mainstream audience. And that kind of really, ticked me off. And the reason it did is that I spent all my life belonging to someone, that now that I get to tell the true stories of my community, I'm being told that I need to tell people, quote unquote, a narrative that's more palatable. Yeah. So, with my, whether it was wisdom or lack thereof, or whether it was kind of just this angst in my soul that I needed to be able to finally be authentic to the story that I had lived, that I'd been conditioned in, that I'd learned along the way, that I started my own media company back in 2002. We're almost hitting 20 years, and along that journey, as I grew into the person that I needed to become, it was a parallel journey with the media company also coming into its own as the Southeast Asian community in North America, really began to kind of understand who they were and what their value proposition was here in North America. So that really was kind of how I, threw myself into the entrepreneurial space, which then, got me a lot of notoriety within my niche around the world. I had a lot of kind of entrepreneurs and executives, influencers and thought leaders coming to me wanting to help them with their professional, personal branding. Then came the age of social media, as you know, and everybody became a media company. Everyone needed to be able to humanize, their value proposition to a specific audience. So there was the opportunity for me to, really be able to take everything that I'd learned over the 20 years in the media, events, marketing, and communication space, and to help people create personal branding profiles to create a connection between their corporate companies and, with the niche that they were looking to target. And that's why, I founded the Open Chest Confidence Academy, to give people an opportunity to be able to tap into different professional development tranches, which I specialize in. And Mike, just to kind of preface that would be mindset, media, communications, branding, marketing, networking, leadership, and advocacy. All of these are needed in order for you to really be able to hone in and create authority around who you are as a personal profile, aka personal brand.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. It was really great talking with you, and have a great day, because that just says it all right there. Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm kidding. But here's a couple of thoughts that I had while you were talking. It's really interesting, and I'll bet that you would agree with this. You found yourself driven by owning your own narrative and story, wanting to put the flag in the ground and the line in the sand and go, here is me, see me roar, hear me roar. And not be told, well, we need to smooth this out and water it down. Well, now when you're working with brands, personal, corporate, and the like, now you're doing these things, but under the underlying maybe benefit or satisfaction that you're seeing is I'm helping them tell their story, own their narrative, and all of that. Do you find that is the case as well?
That's absolutely the case.
Yeah.
I'm driven, Mike, by the idea that we should never have to compromise on our individuality, and to actually look at all the things that have made us who we are, all the challenges as well as all the successes, and, understand what that actually has done to create the identity of who we are today. I don't think that we should ever have to compromise and fit into the box that society tells us we need to fit into, because society hasn't been created to represent all of our narratives. We have to do that by creating our personal brand and putting ourselves out there, because, as I said, social media has allowed us to democratize, our ability to put ourselves out there. It's changed the game. So now it's up to us to say, am I going to take that opportunity and tell the world with confidence who I am, and to build the authority that I believe that is of value to me and to people? Or am I going to keep pandering to a version that was created by someone a long time ago who's not even alive anymore? Really,
Yep.
That's what it comes down to for me.
Yeah. And I find it interesting from what you were saying as well, that before you think I must reinvent my brand, personal or corporate, you need to know who you are and what your message is and who your audience is and what you want to get out there to the world. And then you can start building that out. And then finally, you can say what platforms and opportunities are there out there. Because I think too many people think rebrand is, let me get a new website and logo and get out there on all these platforms. Well, the problem is then you could potentially be building your castle on the sand, because you don't have that foundation of an actual foundational story, what I do to transform the lives of my target audience. And in reality, if you have that story down pat, maybe your logo or message or your website doesn't need to be a $500,000 proposition. Maybe it just needs to be out there because it's solid and it resonates with people.
Absolutely, Mike. And I think that even prefacing what you're saying there, in order for you to even understand, what your value proposition is and who you serve, before you can even go on the journey of finding them, which is where, the brand identity comes in that you just mentioned, you have to really go backwards and start with what is the overarching vision that you are looking to accomplish with your brand and or with your business. It has to start there. That's got to be your ground zero, because if you don't know where you're headed, right, then the second step of that, which is your mission, right, which is the tactical steps to get you to your vision, which is the promised land, the nirvana that you're promising people, right, cannot be, implemented. Mission, and vision are two things that are integrally different, but very necessarily connected to each other. And they've got to be done before you start doing the bells and whistles, and then before you start actually going and finding your audience. And in order to make sure that you stay within the realm of what that is, the vision and the mission, is you got to have a value system around what you're building. The value system, I say, it will police you to stay on track with what you're doing. And then let's go and figure out, what does this need to look like? What does the language cadence need to be, right? depending on who it is that you're looking to target, where are we going to find them?
Yeah.
We're not. And here's the other thing. There's and Mike, I know that you'll agree with me here. There's this kind of dog and pony around the whole idea of, do we go where they are, or do we build it and they will come? And both of those schools of thought, have a lot of validity. What I say is you got to do both. The reason why you need to do both is you don't own borrowed media. You don't own social media. At any point, an algorithm can change, or you can get booted out of the system, and you've lost all the data and everything that you've ever built all these years on. And I've had clients, Mike, that has happened to. And then on the other side, if all you're doing is the owned media piece, right, which is your website and what have you, right, you are not optimizing the people that you can serve. You've got to marry them together. And that's the thing. A lot of people look at what's going on out there. They don't understand that actually is a strategy and science and an order sequence that you have to do this stuff in order to get to the intended goal, which is your vision. You got to do it right, Mike. There is no shortcut. This is a long game.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's so well said. And it's a neat perspective I've not thought about, because you need to go where your target audience currently is so that they're exposed to you and your vision and mission. Then you can kind of be the Pied Piper and go, hey, come on over here and I can do whatever that the case is. You can't just stand out there in the middle of the Mojave Desert and yell and go, here I am, come find me. They won't find you. But with a properly structured vision, mission, foundation, that pulls you toward where you want to go, as well as it attracts people that want to go along in your journey. Here's something that I think that you'll find either really interesting or confirming, because you're from Canada, or you live in Canada. And have you ever heard of the philosopher Marshall McLuhan?
I have.
Well, let me tell you my little sound bite that I use from his work, and tell me if it's accurate or if it resonates with what you do as well. His book from 1967 is called "The Medium is the Message," and he says in there, and it's a kind of a abstract type book, but taking and distilling his teachings down, he says the way we send and receive information is more important than the information itself. Meaning where your content is seen gives as much value as the actual content. So what that means to me is, hey, you can have that vision and mission and solution to your target audience's problem in your proprietary, method. And if nobody knows about it, well, then that's a problem. But if you now start putting that content, whatever that might look like, let's call it a 3-page report, white paper, case study, whatever, and this is everything distilled that to fix these problems, whatever those problems may be. You email that white paper out to some prospects, they might read it maybe. If you put it on your website, they might read it maybe, but they know it's still your website. You can just paste that on there. If you put it on LinkedIn, okay, that's nice. But now if that same content is packaged up on the mediums of authoritative platforms, like maybe you can get it in Forbes or Entrepreneur, maybe you can write a small book, maybe you can be interviewed on a podcast and talk about that. Now your target audience sits up and takes notice, because the medium it's delivered on really amplifies the message.
I absolutely agree with everything that you said, Mike. And there's this added piece as well that I feel that people need to understand, because that's the other element of, what you're talking about, borrowed media. You're borrowing the authority of media that people already recognize to be authoritative. So on one side, if you're building authority, that is a great place to be. On the other side, authoritative media will tell their version of your story. So that's the other thing that I feel that people miss out on. There really does, and it's kind of it's an incomplete telling of your brand story. This is why paid media has become of late extremely valuable to telling the story of your brand, because on one side you've got the authoritative media that you are borrowing and lending by value of being a part of their ecosystem. On the other side, the paid media allows you to tell your story your way, and long form. So these two together, not only the Google and the SEOing value proposition behind this, because media stays online for around 15 years or so. It's also the idea of when someone finds you at Forbes or Entrepreneur, they're going to go Google you, and it's good to be able to have your version of your story told by you on a media platform that's third party, so that they can get the full story. And that's the magic. And it's the connecting of the dots of your marketing and your intention that's very important. People always do incomplete actions, Mike, and that's what makes them fail. They say, I'm doing all the things, but they're not actually doing all the things and connecting them in the right way. That's the missing link.
And connecting them in the right way, ... consistently, because here's the problem I see. Oh, I did that for a hot minute and it didn't work. Well, you got to, I literally spoke to a financial services agency owner yesterday, and he said that he joined one of these these websites where they will refer families that are looking for retirement help to 3 advisors in their area. Well, that's a very common model. And I loved what he said. I said, oh, you've been doing it for 6 months. How has that been working out? And he goes, well, pretty good so far, but I don't really pay attention till a year. I'm like, yes, that's exactly right. You can't do whatever, fill in the blank. Oh, I contributed to, oh, I started my podcast. I've got 9 episodes. Are you serious? You need 49. You need 109. You must do all of those things the right way, on the right platforms, connecting the dots the right way, and then keep on keeping on. Just keep your head down and just do it, because you know that it's a proven model for what other people have, success leaves clues. You know that it works, whatever that might be. So whatever you coach your clients to do, Raj, they need to do it and not stop doing it until it starts working. It's like priming the pump. You watch those old movies in the Westerns, and you start pumping the water pump, and it's like 10, 15, 20 pumps, and then all of a sudden the water just is coming and you don't need to pump as hard. So I think that's a really big
I love that analogy. That's a brilliant analogy. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, let's shift into the last topic that I think would be great to cover, and then we'll wrap her up, which is personal branding versus company branding. And it doesn't matter whether you own the company or are the CEO of the company, or frankly, for that matter, are a vice president of whatever at a company. Tell me your impression of personal branding versus corporate branding, because I feel they tie together and build upon each other.
Absolutely. So here's the thing today. Social media, digital media and marketing have changed the game, where now all of a sudden the power has gone from the people that used to sit at the top of the pyramid to the people that are sitting at the bottom of the pyramid, aka the consumer, people like you and I, Mike. And what that's actually done is it has forced companies to meet the consumer where they are, rather than telling the consumer that they need to come to where they are. So that's the big shift that's happened. What that actually means is, in layman terms, is every single consumer entity out there, whether it's a widget or whether you're selling perfume, whether it's a service or whether you're selling, a concept, a perspective, you have to humanize that product or service that you are looking to put in front of people. In order to do that, you need to attach a ambassador, CEO, somebody that is hired to do the job. If the CEO is not the right person, to actually create a human connection between their widget and the emotional, perspective of why that is of importance to a specific niche audience. It's very difficult to do that if you don't add a human, quote unquote, to the mix. And this is why personal branding has become the most powerful way to create human connection. You have to have it today. And if you don't, you really are leaving money on the table. You are not optimizing your opportunity to be able to get to your people and serve them with a deep connection.
It made me think of something too, right along with those same lines. And a lot of people really don't realize this. Like, well, I don't want to be the face of my brand. And well, guess what? Maybe you should. Well, think about this. What is the most popular, highest grossing selling sports shoe out there of all time?
You tell me.
Air Jordans.
Right. Okay. Of course.
Meaning it's a person. Chuck Taylor's. Air Jordans are the highest selling shoe, not because they were the, whatever, name shoe that, is a shoe name, but it's because the person behind that shoe. So the person behind the brand needs to be amplified so that the brand itself is amplified, because now we all think about Air Jordans and Nike and Air Jordans.
Mm-hmm.
So let's wrap up with what would you recommend someone that hears this and says, got it, I know I need to make strides toward, building my foundation, my vision, my mission, establishing myself in the world of, solving problems for my clients. And then I need to start polishing up my personal brand, which then amplifies my corporate brand. What are some of the best practices or next steps that they should take? And then how can they reach out and connect with you?
Well, if you don't have a personal brand, whether you own a company or whether you are working for a company, you are missing the opportunity to be able to put yourself out there at your best and with the intention that you control your narrative. So that's the most important thing that people need to understand. If you want to understand how to do that and how to do it the right way, and for someone to meet you where you're at and to understand that people learn in different ways, people consume content in different ways, people apply their knowledge in certain ways, and you're looking for accountability to just get it done, you really need to contact me. Just reach out to me via email, askcoaching@theopenchestconfidenceacademy.com. Let's have a conversation. It's a free, no obligation chat, because at the end of the day, I want to ensure that I am, in fact, the right person to help you with what you've already got in place, even if that's nothing, and to take you to where you want to go. Because at the end of the day, here's the goal. A lot of consultants, coaches, marketers, they'll take you on their journey. What I do that's different is I will take you on the journey that you need to go on. And if I am the person that can take you there, I will work with you. If not, I will suggest someone that I feel may be the best fit for you. Because at the end of the day, there are enough people in this world to service everyone. And my goal is to have 100% success with the people I work with. That's what motivates me. I've had a lot of success, Mike. And success really is a relative term. And for me, the relativity of it is I need to make sure that I work with people that are the right fit for me to take them to where they need to go. That's it.
I love it. Well, Raj, thank you so much for coming on today. It was wonderful talking some high-level strategies with you, and I love the focus of your work, and I will make sure that we have the link to your website right in the show notes. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Mike. It was such a pleasure.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.